Hello everybody, it's Brian here. This will probably be the saddest video I have ever had to make on this channel. And it has to do with the fact that Shortstack Records is now closed. And this makes me really sad because it was a small, but as I like to say, mighty record store. Incredible record store, and it is now gone. So I'm going to talk about Shortstack Records, maybe give you a little prehistory about why I liked it, that kind of thing. So let's go back to the era in which I was buying CDs. Now, like many people, this might seem like a long digression about a record store closing, but why not? I, stopped buying records years and years ago and started buying CDs. And at some point I made the switch back. And for me, that was around 2012, 2013. So in the era that I was still buying CDs, I used to shop at a store called Penguin Music, which was located at number 2 McCall Street, just north of Queen Street, in the trendy Queen Street West location, right around the corner from City TV and other cool establishments. So I used to go there all the time, and the reason I like Penguin Music is because they had a lot of artists on the Cranky label, on Constellation, all that Montreal post-rock that I've mentioned. Of all the dozens of Bill Laswell CDs I have, many of them came from that location. The only other shop in Toronto that had anything close to that was a store called Soundscapes, which sold CDs primarily, and then later they included some new records, and then they also shut down. So that was also sad. But so I love Penguin Music. At some point, they had to move from their location on McCall Street, and they moved around the corner into a location called Black Market Underground, which was literally the basement of a building. You'd walk down these stairs into what looked like a bohemian collective of merchants selling things like jewelry and clothing and things like that. There's also a barbershop in there, and that's where Penguin Music set up in a location at the back. They had a gate that you could close off, and they started selling CDs out of the Black Market Underground location at 256A Queen Street West. I don't know the story of why they closed, but eventually Penguin Music closed, and it may have had to do with economics of retail space. I don't really know, but and they, as I mentioned, only sold CDs. But what moved in was a record store called Good Music, and for me, the timing couldn't have been better because in the previous year, I had unpacked my records, I had set up my turntable. I stopped buying CDs. I was really into the whole renaissance of records. And that happened all over the city. Like other stores that only sold CDs started selling records. I think of like She Said Boom. One day I walked in and they suddenly had bins of records instead of CDs. Sonic Boom, in the first location that I went to, had their entire first floor was all CDs. And then they switched as well. So a big change happened at the vinyl renaissance, I guess. So Penguin Music shut down and Good Music moved in. Now, Good Music was run by a guy called Lincoln, who is still active in the Toronto record business today, which I'll come to later. He was a manager slash buyer at Vortex Records, which was a legendary Toronto record store at Yonge and Eglinton. It closed in 2016, but he had all of these connections, which clearly helped them establish Good Music because his inventory was nothing short of spectacular. So I started shopping at Good Music whenever I could. I'd go there at lunch breaks or I'd stop on my way home and buy things there. His philosophy was that he would pay you 50% of the Discogs median price if you were selling things there, which I never did. I don't really sell. I haven't really sold anything recently. And so he had really excellent prices because he'd give you that price and he would sell it for the Discogs median price, which is incredible. And so his inventory, which he featured on an Instagram feed, was incredible. Like every day I look at it in awe of what he got in. It was like astounding. People would phone him, could you put that on hold for me? I'd stop there whenever I could. And as bizarre as it might sound, I didn't go there as frequently as you might imagine because I knew that if I went there, I'd end up spending too much money because the stuff he had was just amazing. I can't overstate how much that store was incredible in terms of, first of all, the records that he had and the prices that he sold them for. Amazing, amazing things. So he moved in there in 2014. And then around the end of 2015, he made the announcement that he was moving a little farther west to the Brockton Village area near Dundas and Brock, which might not mean much to you, but I think it was closer to where he was living. But in his announcement, he mentioned that, don't worry, there's a new record store going to take the space that I am currently in the Black Market Underground. And that record store turned out to be Shortstack Records, run by a guy called Cal. And of course, I went there on the first week to look around, and he had the similar philosophy. He would give you a very fair price for trade-ins or things you would sell to him, and he'd sell at a reasonable price. So I instantly recognized that the prices were going to be good, that his philosophy was very similar to good music. Now, obviously, in the first month or so, his inventory wasn't very big because he just started, but eventually it built up. And I went there quite frequently. Friendly guy, good shop, lots of selection, excellent prices. And he occupied that space for probably 3.5 years. Sometime in 2019, I believe, he moved his shop. I think maybe he was forced out by redevelopment in that space. I'm not sure. He moved out to Bathurst and Dundas to another store, which is suitable for me. It was on my way home if I wanted it to be. Maybe it was possibly a little bit bigger. I'm not sure about that exactly. Anyway, good location, convenient. Again, the philosophy of good prices in and out continued. I always found something I wanted there. And I really liked the store. I thought it was really great. Now, then he had to move, and I think this had to do with real estate in Toronto. I'm not sure, but I think he was forced out. He went to what he called a temporary location because I think he had difficulty finding a permanent location. And that was in 2022. I think August 2022, he moved out to a location near Trinity Bellwoods, which coincidentally was very close to a store called Rotate This, which is a fantastic record store in Toronto. So a smaller location, though. If I have a photo, I'll try to put it in, but essentially it is a kind of like an add-on, it seems to be, to the main shop next door, which was called Flower Pot. Coincidentally, Good Music at some point then closed his physical storefront, which was sad for me because, I thought that was a really great shop. But he went online to something called Volver, Volver, and it still exists to this day. You can go and look at his inventory. He doesn't ship, so you kind of have to be in Toronto and you indicate which records you want, and you meet up and you make the transaction. I have never bought anything from Volver because I guess I prefer an in-person shopping experience. I might someday, but I look at it and yeah, he has a pretty impressive collection of things. So that is sad for me that it's online now. So recently we all got a note, if you follow, if you get the Shortstack Records newsletter, that he is going to close down because the landlord made the decision to lease the place again, and the Shortstack location was a sublease of the next door Flower Pot location. So we made the decision to close, which is sad news for me because I think it was a really amazing store. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. I mentioned Shortstack Records in a previous video. I think the video was called the Second Annual Great Canadian Vinyl Community Summit, where I met up with Rob from Northern Revolutions and Chris from Stylist Meets Vinyl, and we went to Rotate This, Shortstack Records, and Sonic Boom, and Rob and Chris were both impressed by the store. And I have to agree, it was a really incredible store with a really excellent inventory and just great prices. So, I understand his philosophy on closing down because, retail space in Toronto, I'm not an expert in this by any means, but I know it's very expensive. For example, many years ago, Rotate This used to be on Queen Street, not so far from Black Market Underground. You could hit both on the same lunch hour if you wanted to. But prices were just escalating because it's such a trendy area. It's really, touristy in the summer. And so they moved to Ossington Avenue. And I have a feeling they might be forced out of there too because that's also now very trendy. So retail space in Toronto is definitely not cheap. So I am sad that it's closing. I understand the reason for it. It's not the first record store that's closed that I've been upset by. I was upset that Good Music went online. Another favorite of mine was a store called June Records, which I really loved, and it closed down too many years ago. So I guess these places come and go, and we're kind of spoiled in Toronto because we have, I don't know, it must be close to 40 record stores if you count all of them, and some I've never actually been to. You might find that surprising, but on the east side of the city, some I've just never been to because they're not really convenient to me. I guess I should. Or there's a few that I've been to only once, but unfortunately, Shortstack is closed, and I'm sad about that, but I guess life goes on. There's a new one that opened near Pandemonium Records that I have not been to yet, so I'm going to check that out at some point. Anyway, thanks for enduring my pain with the closing of the store, and I'll talk to you in the next one.